Hi all, welcome to session 27 of Azure Data Factory, and in this session we are going to explore another metadata property known as structure. So structure is going to give you the list of columns and their data types in file or a database table. Okay, so in order to further understand this, let's just do a quick hands-on on our data factory. So let me go to my portal, Azure portal. So here we are going to perform three test cases. The first one, we are going to take a look at a CSV file, then there will be a Parquet file that we are going to explore, and the last one will be a database table. Okay, so let me go to my data factory resource group, and I am now going to open my data factory studio. Okay, so here we are in our author mode. So right now if you see, I think I have already created one. So this is the PL get metadata structure. Okay, so what I have done, I have basically cloned an existing pipeline and I have created this pipeline out of it. Okay, so the first thing is a get metadata activity, and the next thing is a set variable. Set variable is going to be doing an initialization of an array variable. Okay, so structure array is the name of that variable and it is of array type. In the get metadata, what you have to do, you have to go to settings, you have to check your data set. It is the old data set that we have used in last couple of sessions, and you have to give all the details like what is the file system name, that is source, what is the path, that is folder path, and what is the file. Okay, and after that you have to select the field list. So here you have to create a new field and you have to get the structure for this. Okay, now when you are in the set variable activity, in the settings you have to initialize the value with the structure. Okay, so output dot structure will be the value that will be assigned to your variable in the set variable activity. Okay, so this is our initial pipeline and let's trigger it. So now the pipeline has started executing and we are using sales.csv. Okay, so let's see. The pipeline is successful. Now if you see the get metadata csv, here you will see the structure. In the structure you have name and type, and if you see, name is giving you the column name and the type is giving you the data type. In case of csv, if you see, all of the type is string. That means there is no data type other than string, because in the delimited text file everything is a string. It is not going to differentiate between a number or a character, it is going to give everything as string. Okay, so just keep this in mind and let's explore the other type of file that we can use. We can use multiple files, but let's just use the most common file after csv that we use in our big data scenarios, that is a parquet file. Okay, so let's go to our author tab, and in this, what I have done, I have created a new data set with the parquet. So ds adls gen2 parquet. Here you have to again give source variable input and you have to choose a parquet file. Okay, so let me go to my adls. Here if you see, in the source variable input you have nyc trip small dot parquet. Okay, so I'm going to use the name nyc trip small dot parquet. Okay, it is one of the most famous data sets that we use in our uh, data exploration and machine learning scenarios. So you can find, I think it's New York taxi trip dataset. So you can go here, nyc go site, and here if you see, you can get all the data from 2009 onwards. Okay, so pick anyone, so you can get directly in a Parquet file format. So I'm using green taxi for 2023. Okay, now I have given everything. Structure is going to be there, and there will be no change in the set variable activity, so it is going to be the same. Okay, let me publish the changes. Okay, the changes are good. Now let me trigger it one more time. Okay, ideally you should change the name of this activity, but I will show you why I didn't do it. Okay, let me go ahead. Yeah, so now if you see the structure, it is same as before, but now the type is different. So for every column it is giving you a type that is much more versatile. So right now, if you see, the first three columns are of integer type, then there is a string type, then there is a double data type, then again integer. I think there will be a timestamp as well, if I'm not wrong. No, there is no timestamp here. So in the Parquet, what is happening is, instead of giving everything or storing everything as a string, Parquet has its own metadata where it stores the information about the columns. So what is the name of the column, what kind of data has been stored in that column, and using that it can give you this structure. Okay, so it is little more versatile than the delimited text file format, and the same has been initialized in your structure array. Okay, now if I go back, and I told you, right, I did not change the name of this get metadata activity. So if I change it from get metadata Parquet file, like from CSV to this, and if I try to validate, it will give you an error, because we are using output, one of the outputs of get metadata activity, to set the variable. So here if you check, you have the name of the activity. So here if you see, the name of the activity is get metadata csv delimited file, and because of that it is throwing an error. So here you have to change the Parquet. Okay, so from csv you have to change Parquet, and if you validate now, there will not be any error. Okay, so let it publish. Now we are going to see the third type, that is, if we want to get the structure out of a database table. So for that we have to provision a database, and for that we have to go into a resource group, click on create. Here you type Azure SQL, get the Azure SQL, click on create. I want a single database. Apply this offer, that way you won't be charged for first 100,000 seconds. Keep everything as it is. Let the name be sample database. I'm going to create a server. I'm going to say Rishabh Tiwari demo DB, and I'm going to pick Central India as my provisioning location. I'm going to use SQL authentication. Okay, Rishabh admin is going to be the name, and I'm giving a password. Okay, now I want to keep everything here as it is. I don't want to touch anything. Make sure you have this 0, so that you should not incur any extra charges. And after using this database, once your demo and once your hands-on and practice is complete, delete this database server. Okay, not the database server itself, so that way you will not be charged anymore. So right now I'm using public endpoint. I have selected my IP address to be added in the firewall. I have allowed other Azure services to access this database. Now I'm going to go in security. In security, I'm not going to touch anything in additional settings. Let's see, find a collision. Eight. Let it be as of now. I don't want to change anything here. Uh, Ideally, it should be some UTF-8 collation, but for now we are good. And maintenance window also I don't want to change. Review and create. Okay, so let's create this server. Mhm. Okay, so I'm pausing this video. Once the deployment is complete, let's discuss post that. Okay. Okay, so our deployment is now complete. Let me go to the resource, and here I'm going to pass the password that I have created for my admin account. Okay, so right now, as you can see, there is like absolutely no tables here. So let me create a simple table. So I'm going to say create table. I'm going to use students, and I'm going to give ID, int, name, varchar 50 is good enough. I think after that I would give batch, int, stream, varchar 100. Then after that I will give varchar 100. Okay, so this is the table, and after that I'm going to insert into students values. So I'm going to include 4 records. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I would say student A, student B, student C, and student D. Okay, so it should be in quotes. After that, what we had, okay, 2009, 2010, 2010, and 2011. After that, what we have science as stream, arts, commerce, social studies. Okay, and let's give as Delhi, Indore, Pune, Varanasi. Okay, so let's run the script. Okay, I think we are good. Let me just do a select star. Fine. So now we can see the data in our table. Now we are going to get the structure of this table in our pipeline. Okay. So now we are able to see the students table here. In order to get the structure of this table, we have to create a link service and a data set. So right now we don't have any link service and the data set for this SQL DB. So I'm going to create a data set, and before that I'm going to create a link service. But for that, let me just go into data set creation, and I'm going to say data set Azure SQL DB link service. I'm going to click on new, and I'm going to say link service Azure SQL DB. I'm going to select the subscription that I have. Server name, it will automatically populate. I will go for Rishabh Tiwari DB demo sample, and I'm going to give my username and password for our authentication purposes. So Rishabh admin is going to be my username. Let me retype the password. Let me test connection. Yeah, everything is looking okay. Now I have to select a table name. So I selected DBO students as my table name, and now it is ready. And since we already have structure selected, we don't have to change anything here. So instead of using Parquet dataset, now I'm using SQL dataset. Okay, and this thing won't change. There will not be any change in the set variable. So I'm going to publish it. As you can see, I have changed a pipeline and I have created a new dataset. The link services are automatically published, so you will not see when you are clicking on publish button. So link services will not be published. It will be created as soon as you click on OK and create the link service. Okay. So now it is ready for our test. So let's trigger the pipeline. Okay. Now if you see, okay, I think I haven't changed or what. Let me see. I think I have picked the, yeah, wrong execution. So here if you see, you get a lot more information. So earlier you get only name and type. Now you have name type, logical type, ID, physical type, etc. Okay. So when you are getting the structure of a database table, chances are very high that you will get a lot more information compared to CSV or JSON or Parquet. Okay, because those are file formats, they have limited metadata. Now the purpose of the structure is to validate your data before you perform any operation in your pipeline on that data set. So suppose you have a file that is coming in your data lake storage, and that file has to be of specific schema. So it's like it should have 11 columns. Columns should be in a particular order. Each column should have this data type. The file should be of this format. So all these kind of validations you want to perform. So structure property of that file will help you in performing all these checks. And once your all checks are green, that means your file is as per your requirement. You can process that file further in your Azure Data Factory pipeline. Okay, so that is why the structure is useful. It will give you the metadata about the file, about the table that you are consuming in your Data Factory pipeline, and based on that metadata you can perform operations in your pipeline. Okay, So this was the structure for you, and in this demo we saw three different types. One was delimited, in which we saw all the types were string, there was no change in the data type. Then we saw a parquet file where we had variations in our data type for the columns, and then we saw a database table where we had a lot more information about the metadata. Okay, so this was for today, and let's connect in the next session to explore more on get metadata activity. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me, and let's meet in this session 28.